Welcome to Session 10, Pain and Mindfulness. Just as we talked about in previous sessions, that stress per se is not a bad thing. It's important to remember also that pain per se is not a bad thing either. Pain is one of your body's most important messengers. If you couldn't feel pain, you could do a lot of harm to yourself. It can be a very effective teacher. But most people would say that pain categorically is a bad thing. And so we want to explore that in this session and understand the purpose of pain and how to work with it. Physical treatments for pain really are often lacking, and many people really are told you're just going to have to live with the pain. But the problem with this is that there's no discussion often around how to do that. So we'll be talking about how can we begin letting go of the attitude that we just want a doctor to fix it or make it go away, and instead begin taking responsibility ourselves for working with the condition that we're in. We're talking about how the mind can play a role in regulation of pain, and what is that role that it plays. We're not saying that pain is imaginary or all in our heads, but what we are saying is that pain is not just a body problem. It's a whole system problem. And our mind, our thoughts, our emotions play a role. The system's perspective on pain, you can look up if you want more detail about the nuance of each system that's thought to be connected to how we experience pain. But basically, it's acknowledging that many different systems in our body contribute to how we actually experience pain. And so physical and mental signals make up the presentation of pain in our body. And I'm more looking at how our mental signals, our emotions, our experiences, our thoughts contribute to our experience of pain. And so this system's perspective really opens the door for many different possible ways to use your mind intentionally to be able to influence your experience of pain. And that's why mindfulness can be of such great value in learning to live with pain. Your body and your mind are not two separate and distinct entities. And therefore, there's always a mental dimension to pain. And that is the piece that we can and will talk about actually being able to work with. Pain is a complex experience, and it's one that's not only made up of the physical component, even though that's a major part of it, but there are these other two components, our emotions and our thoughts about the pain. So our emotions might be how we feel about the pain, which might be anxious, resentful, scared, sad, and many different emotions. And then our thoughts about the pain, what I'm going to be calling the pain story. What went wrong? What does this mean for our future? And so on and so forth. And so you could see how these three components influence each other significantly. And our focus in this session is if we can lessen the impact of emotions and our thoughts or the pain story, we can hopefully then lessen the overall level of pain that's actually experienced and the impact of it. So to go a little farther into what I meant by the pain story or our thoughts about the pain, when we're in pain, especially if it's been there for a while, we're not only experiencing the pain in this moment, but also we're immediately feeling what happened around the pain in the past and what might happen in the future. So there's always this story of the past, how the pain came to be, what was or wasn't done, any mistakes or oversights that happened, and so on. And then at the same time, there's this worry about the future. And that has two aspects to it. There's the immediate future. So how will this pain affect my day, things I need to get done? What does that mean for me in the immediate future? And then there's also the worry about the pain in the broader future. What might happen if this pain doesn't go away? What if it never gets better? What if it actually gets worse? What does this mean for my family? And so on. And so you could imagine as we're feeling that pain, we're also left to ruminate on all of these different concerns about the past and the future. What will this mean for my professional life? Will I ever be able to work again? Will I ever be able to do the things that make me happy, like running or skiing or lifting, and so on and so forth? Will someone have to care for me? So you can imagine that not just the physical pain, but adding on these thoughts and worries, that is a heavy thing to carry. Because you are carrying so much in that moment, it's helpful to reframe things. In a moment of pain, a helpful reframe is that you're experiencing the physical pain that's here for you in that moment, plus the huge emotional pain of the past and the future. And like what I was saying, that is a huge load to carry. And no wonder you might feel something like hopeless or overwhelmed or immobilized by fear. Just like I've talked about in past sessions, you're not your thoughts, and you're also not your pain. Your pain is a part of your experience, but it doesn't define or reduce you. You know, when someone really believes that they are their pain, their perceptions change of that pain that they're experiencing. And it shifts from a moment of pain to this permanent state of being in pain or of being a person with pain. It starts to really take up residence in someone and become such a part of their identity, as much so as something like their eye color. They can't really see themselves without it. And it starts contributing to a habitual way of relating to ourselves and to the world around us through a pain lens. So using the attitudes of mindfulness that we've been discussing and practicing, you can reframe your view of yourself. You're a whole person who happens to be working with pain or a pain condition. And being able to make your experience less personal is really important to mindfulness, because we're really working that muscle of being able to be more of an observer, to shift into making it not so much about you, from I'm in pain to this is a moment of pain, to make it more impersonal and to give ourselves some space from the pain rather than it being who we are. So where does mindfulness come in working with pain? You know, carrying around the pain story, you could envision it as carrying around this big heavy backpack all the time, even when it's not necessary. So we want to think about using mindfulness. How do we put this backpack down? The first step with a lot of these different sessions, is awareness. We have to become aware that we even have a pain story, or really understand what is the pain story and what are those emotions that are attached. If we pause for a moment, do you notice that in a moment of pain, you're often also upset about the past or worried about the future in this moment? Because without the awareness of the pain story, you can't change anything. And then after becoming aware, it's about cultivating willingness to turn towards or lean in or open up to the moment-to-moment experience of pain with self-compassion and kindness. And in this way, we can learn from the pain instead of closing off from it and trying to make it go away. It can be difficult to understand why I'm emphasizing this leaning in or entering into the pain when you might just really want to distract from it or ignore it. But there might be times when distraction or ignoring it just doesn't work. And at these times, it's really helpful to have other tricks besides just trying to endure it, or depending on things like drugs to ease it. Bringing mindfulness to it can lead to new levels of insight and understanding about yourself and your body. These are things that distraction or escaping can never do. So understanding, gaining more insight, they're an extremely important part of the process of trying to come to terms with your condition and really learning to live with it, not just endure it. So we're bringing awareness to what is this pain story and the things associated. We're trying to become more willing to turn into that experience and observe it and identify it and learn to sit with the discomfort of it. And then from there, it's letting go of the pain story, actually putting down this big backpack. We practice letting go of the stories that we tell ourselves and then redirect our attention to something in the present moment that's more neutral, like the breath or a sensation of our feet on the ground, or maybe internally saying a phrase such as, "Thank you, not now." Once we've dropped the story, the emotions that have been triggered by the story will start to lessen their grip as we stop re-triggering it by every repetition of the story. And in this way, we're really starting to uncouple the sensory experience from the cognitive and emotional dimensions of pain. Once we see them differently as different things, our experience of each will change. In some moments, when you go into your pain to face it and observe it openly, it might feel kind of like a battle or kind of like torture sometimes. And it's helpful to recognize that these are just thoughts. It helps to remind yourself that the work of mindfulness is not meant to be a battle between you and your pain. If you do make it a struggle, it'll only cause more tension and bring with it more pain. Mindfulness is more about making a determined effort to observe and accept your physical discomfort and your agitated emotions moment by moment. We're working on becoming more familiar with the pain, of getting to know it better, not trying to stop it or escape from it. And if we can get to this place of maybe even befriending the pain just for one breath, that is a step in the right direction. If we can be open to observing and being in the experience for one breath, maybe next time we can be in it for 2 breaths, and then maybe 3, and be able to build on that and get to a place of really being able to ride the waves and sensation of pain and our experience of it. Pain's a message that should cause us to pay attention, because it's really trying to reconnect us to some basic need we have, or something that's off, or something that's happened to us. We want to be able to really understand and work with it and maybe actually solve something about the issue at hand, rather than just trying to avoid the feeling of it. For example, if you're experiencing stomach pain because of some certain food that you're eating over and over again, or stressors that you're experiencing, simply taking an antacid and continuing to live in the same old ways is not going to actually help. It might even lead to more issues and breakdown down the line, because in this way, we're really not heeding these signals, these messages from our own bodies, and we're unknowingly disconnecting from our body, and we're really overriding its effort to restore balance and order. What we want to do, on the other hand, is if we listen to that message, we're more likely to modify our behavior in some way or other, and then be able to restore that regulation and order to the systems in our body. As always, this takes practice. This is not easy. But if you're able to identify, what is this pain story? What does this pain lens look like for you personally? And can you remove that? You're left with the actual sensation of pain in the moment, not all these other things we bring with it. And often, when we're left with the actual sensation of pain in the moment, we realize that the pain itself isn't so bad in this moment, or at least that it's more tolerable than we thought. And our actual experience of that physical pain shifts. The guided meditation practice for today is urge surfing. In this practice, we're looking at a certain behavior that we want to reduce or stop, maybe an urge we don't want to engage in, and we're trying to mindfully not engage in it or stop. We want to grow our capacity to observe and to resist a mindless, automatic reaction to things. So instead of pushing experience of pain or craving or impulse away, we can instead be curious about it. And curiosity counterbalances resistance automatically for us. We want to understand, what is this like? Can we stay with what's happening in this moment? What is the exact sensation that is there? We're comparing urges, impulses, whatever we're trying to change, to ocean waves. When we watch them arrive, crest, and subside, they're small when they start. We watch them grow in size, and then watch them break up and dissipate. And so we'll sit in this experience. So give it a try.